Oh, sorry. Let's just start without me. I'm on my way.
Okay. Good evening all, good evening councillors.
Good evening.
We'll start off tonight's agenda with apologies for absence. We have Richard Atwell, Gregory Alderman, and Gurney. Apologies in. Item 2, public question time. We have no public with us tonight. Next is to approve an accurate record of the minutes from the meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee held on 17th of June. You should have copies of. Is there any questions or are you happy to accept? Accept. Approved. I'll sign those briefly. Councillor Dunn?
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Next item is declaration of interest. A moment. Leaning. Left afterwards. Energetic dancing this afternoon. So declaration of interest.
Yeah, I need to declare an interest for being a member of the Rotary Club of Dunstable for item 11, please. I won't partake in the conversation or any decision.
Okay. Anyone else? If you come across any, as we go through them, just let me know. Thank you. Comes to the first report, the finance report, is to be read out there. Please show that. We then have a decision to make on.
Thank you, Chair. As a member, you've all received the first finance report for this financial year 24-25. So, as you'll see on my report, the purpose is to provide a revenue budgetary control report for financial year ending until 31st of July 2024. And then 1.2, provide detail of the council's earmarked reserves as of the 31st of July 2024. And then 1.3, provide details on current investments, and 1.4 to provide detail on current direct debits. So you'll see from the report that obviously it's very early in the year to be looking at forecasting for year end, but at present, with any known expenditure, any known income coming in, what's going on the ongoing works at Brierley House, the Splash Park out of season business, although it's still unknown predicted sales, we're looking at a current revenue forecast at the year end of a saving of 120,000. You see, as reported at the last committee, the general reserve was short by approximately 100,000, but as reported at the last committee, we were hoping to fund that from Priory House. That is still the case. Based on known income and expenditure date, the saving on Priory House has increased slightly since the last report, but obviously we're still early days. Obviously, we'll wait and see what happens through the year, but as it stands, that's what we're predicting. We're still waiting on the pay award to be offered. We've had a slight indication, but hopefully we'll find out something for the next committee.
Just noting. Okay, that's duly noted. Has anyone got any questions for Lisa? Councillor Holly first, and then Councillor Brennan.
Hey, Chairman, just a question, the 3.4, the rent, have the tenants given notice particularly this juncture?
Not at this stage. We have had discussions on them. We do know that they are leaving. A date has yet to be confirmed.
I suppose as a follow on from that, it's a little bit early to advertise potential space. Yeah. And can I ask 3.5, depot costs not budgeted? I was just wondering what those costs were. I can appreciate what increased security costs might be, but the depot cost seems rather obvious.
Yeah, so that was the Creasy Park depot. So obviously when we set the budget last year, didn't know at that stage that we'd be leaving Creasy Park. So the depot costs that were included in the budget were the internal transfer costs that we used to do from the recreation ground budget to the Creasy Park budget. So we've estimated, as well as the rent that we know, or we've been quoted by Central Beds Council for the depot, along with the associated costs for rates, electricity, water, etc. Estimated based on average uses and the use of similar size other properties that we own.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brennan.
So I had questions with regards to the reserves within the S106 external funding. It's listed at 179,000 of S106 right at the end, and then there's a reduction of 73,000 with the 106 that we're currently holding, but there's no reference to exactly what that 73,000 came out for. I'd like to know what that 73,106 was used for, and I'd also like to know what the remaining 105,000 of section 106 funds that we're currently holding is for.
Okay, so the 73,000 is just committed at this stage. So of that, there's 11,700 in for French Avenue open spaces works that were agreed.
Okay, so that's the total.
June, yes, it's just a total of the three elements that have been committed. So there's the 12,000 in the developers' contributions, which is 8,000 on the from the Willoughby that we put in the revenue budget each year to offset any costs that we may incur, and then some balance of Court Drive landscaping of 4,000, and then the remaining 50 is the joint committee that we hold, which is obviously separate to our funds.
Sure. The CBC funds relating to Creasy Park to be returned, is that what's happening with that? What point is that 106 going to be returned?
Shortly. So there's some minor details to finesse in terms of ending with Creasy, some of the ongoing costs to us. So incoming and outgoing. So while that S106 amount will be returned as it is, the kind of final total account between us and CBC, we're just getting the details before we send off.
That's cool. There's also within the direct debits, there are a couple of things that I wanted to question.
Yeah.
So there's a direct debit for Creasy Park Football Grounds coffee machine rentals.
Yeah.
We don't run Creasy Park anymore, so is that for the depot that we put in?
So when we were managing Creasy Park, we signed up to a 24-month, 36-month agreement for some coffee machines. Obviously, we're still liable for that agreement, even though we don't manage Creasy Park anymore. On beds, if they tried them but decided they're not fit for, they don't want them, they've returned them to us. Unfortunately, we're still going to be paying them off, despite not having Creasy to be able to make money from them.
Cool. So what are we currently doing with these room machines? James?
We're trying to see if we can relocate them. So we're hoping we might use one, possibly if we were looking to get the shop in town. We've been exploring options where Grove Corner might be able to utilise them there. And if the Splash Park trade significantly increases, if we've got one machine there, then we've got options to put another one there to cater for demands.
So these automatic machines or are they manual machines?
They're sort of the bean to cup machines where they have to be plumbed in, you push a button, so fortunately, Beds of Faith did commit at a time to take the rental for the full contract, but then they've since rescinded on that.
Another one.
Just oh, don't know.
Just
No,
the,
it goes-
the electricity supply to Kingsbury Pavilion of £181 a month of electricity to Kingsbury Pavilion. It was my understanding that we're not really using it apart from the
floodlight there.
bubble pub.
There's showers in the pavilion, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it shouts. I think there's electric heating in there as well,
Yeah.
which is normally would be a bad way of doing it because it's so occasionally used. It's better to do it on electric and turn it on and off than have any other system in there.
Okay, cool.
But
That's
once we redo Kingsbury, we'll have a better system in there.
Sure. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, councillor Pollock.
Thank you. Just another one. Under 371 at the end, White Lion landscaping, we have put £10,000 into a fund there. I was just wondering if there's any note from Luton as to whether or not we might be able to progress what we want to do with that pocket of land.
So Luton would be happy for us to do something with it as it is without its ownership changing, and they're open to a discussion about its moving to us, but they've been rather slow in responding to emails on the subject.
I was going to say it has been going on for rather a long time. It sounds as though may not be light at the end of the tunnel, but maybe we're entering the tunnel. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a tunnel. Isn't it? I take it as a strip of land next to the busway. Any other comments, questions? No? Our councillor then happy to accept and note the action points 1.1 and 1.4. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Next, compliance and facility report from James Slack.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So I'll run through the report on a compliance aspect, fire risk assessments and annual emergency lighting. Inspections have taken place across all the council buildings. We're in the final stages of achieving Cyber Essentials certification. At the next committee, I should be able to report that we've now have that in place, and officers undertook a safeguarding children, young people and vulnerable adults policy. There was only very minor amendments which did not have any effect to the operations within the council. Facilities, so Grove House, there is a new boiler installed. We're just waiting for a flue to be installed, and then that'll be fully functional, ready for the winter. And as I reported at last council committee meeting, works here at Grove House that need to take place due to the nature of the building being a Grade 2 listed building. We've actually put Brazier Fife, our appointed building surveyors, in touch with Caro, who are working at Priory House, and they're working together now to look at the best way forward. And we're just waiting for a report back from them on that meeting. Downside Community Centre, last time I reported some issues we're having with the cesspit. They've all been resolved, and the town council actually reimbursed Ringcraft for some of the costs that they incurred during that period. Projects and procurement. So following on from the IT project, all of our sites now have, apart from cemetery, will be installed soon, some new tablet devices. So upon entry, you should see a tablet where we can use as a mechanism for contractors, visitors sign in, but then also used as a customer service, easy access to the website. I've used it a few times here, helping the members of the public with websites, directions, etc. Health and safety, our council appointed health and safety consultants are undergoing a health and safety audit in this week, end of this week. So at the next meeting, I'll be able to report on their findings and give an update. And lastly, environmental and biodiversity. The town council's environmental working group met and decided and commissioned a new baseline assessment, as it had been 4 years since the last assessment, and much has changed in that time, not least the loss of Creasy Park, which is a huge impact to the council's carbon producer. A new baseline assessment will be conducted, which will give some new objectives for the council in our quest to be as close to carbon neutral as we can be. And yes, I'll be working closely with them on that.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions for James? Councillor Jones?
Just on 5.1, the tablets that are at the entrances to our buildings.
Yes.
Should we as councillors be signing into those when we arrive, if we're here in the week, coming in to see officers, just for health and safety purposes and for fire?
Yes, that's something we're going to look to do. Yeah. So yes, I'll put an email out, but yes, encourage to do so. Or when we have anyone come to meet us, we get them to do that correct. For
So
health
we
and safety.
should too.
We should do. Yes. Yeah.
Councillor Holly?
Thank you. 2.3, you say in the final stage of achieving cyber essentials. Can you elucidate on that a little bit? Is this protection against hacking or what?
Correct. It's a security. So it's a security certificate to say that as a council, we're doing everything we can to protect the online security.
Mhm.
It's
That's more up with it than I thought then.
Okay, Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, James. It really does surprise me that your talents are just endless. You're out there talking to the public and showing them stuff. It's really great. I saw you putting together the tablet stand out in the reception, and it's really nice to see that we're like really coming into the what century are we now? 21st century. It's really good, and it'll be easier for all of us as well to sign in using the tablet. So thank you for that. I just wanted to make a point on the 0.7 environmental and biodiversity. I did have an email today confirming that CBC are going to be delivering our training course here for councillors that are interested, and of course any officers that may be interested. They're coming on the 5th of November. We'll send out an invite, but that will be probably all day. So just to make people aware, members aware, that we've got that training on the 5th of November here in the chamber. Thank you.
Anyone else? I've got, Councillor Brennan?
Thank you, Chair. James?
yes.
I always see phrases of free in all our documents. Can you tell me about, are they on a permanent contract with us as our appointed building surveyors, or do we, every time we use them, do we tender for the job that they are doing?
So don't believe we're on a contract. There are appointed surveyors. Paul, do you need? Is it?
Yeah, so we've been working with them for 15 years or so. And we've found them very helpful and approachable. We have looked at other options that were similarly, or at least that weren't any cheaper, put it that way. They have an understanding of our buildings, and we've got a trust relationship with them, which means the relationship's working quite well. We have now got a supplier framework, which they will be kind of signing on to as other suppliers do, so at least we'll have that fresh quality assurance with them once they've filled in that documentation. The interesting example in this report is they're actually, with the work on Grove House, we've introduced them to Carrow Architects who are working on Priory House. So Carrow Architects are providing some professional conservation building expertise, whereas Braintree Freak don't necessarily have that to the same extent. Braintree Freak have been really good and positive at working with them in a constructive fashion and being very comfortable with working with other professionals. And financially, it very much works in the town council's favour to continue working with Braintree Freak.
Okay.
I'm happy to discuss that further outside the room if that would help. If there's any.
That's cool.
Okay.
James, also,
You've got another one? Okay.
if that's okay.
So I'm going to jump in after you, don't worry.
regards to risk assessments, the report notes why risk assessments. Is there a possibility of carrying out risk assessments with regards to each service department? Whether it be with the risk of fraud or liability due to injury at one of the parks or something, so that each service area has its own risk assessment and risk profile, so that we know if there's anything that is going to affect service delivery in any way, shape or form. You know, it's the sort of thing they do at Central Bedfordshire Council, and it would come under compliance.
I mean, every service area carries out their own risk assessments. This was just regarding specific fire risk assessments, but every service will carry out risk assessments continually for all their work, which will be at minimum reviewed annually, but reviewed at any time there's a change in operations circumstances, they'll review the risk assessments. So every project, every area has their own, which, go on, Paul.
So every event has a detailed risk assessment. Youth team have risk assessments for everything you can think of. All of our grounds work has a whole range of risk assessments for each bit of equipment and each activity. So happy to talk you through them all. Markets have a risk assessment. We've got a risk assessment that you've got up a gazebo and what wind it's allowed to go up in. And then, of course, we have the corporate risk assessment, which highlights the key risks of the organisation. But then from that, you should be able to drill down to each service area. Okay, that's risks to manage. I'll look out for now. Cool.
James, one question on the fire drill. You mentioned on the signing in for public and staff possibly. What's the routine at the moment for the fire drill? Do you just leave and then someone checks the building, or are you doing a register once you leave?
Yeah, so we'll have a register of who's in the building, and then we have 3 fire wardens who then report to the chief fire warden on all the areas, and we'll take
a physical search before leaving the building.
Yes, correct. Correct.
It's just obviously having worked in large offices, we tended to just do a basic check the floor and it was clear, let them know, because people signing in may have left without signing out, and that leaves firemen at risk going in looking for people who are not actually there.
And Chair, I can confirm I did my fire warden training at the weekend, and so I'm fully risk assessment trained to carry out those functions for the third of the building in which I operate.
Yeah, that's super. Yeah. So it's best to check the rooms and then shut them as you go. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. One up is Rachel with Marketing and Communications Report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. We start the report with social media. We've been increasing our use of Insta stories, which link across to Facebook stories to enhance engagement. And this seems to be providing a really good and effective way of keeping our followers engaged. 1.2, we're testing the new feature on Facebook where you can @ your followers, so it notifies them of if a post has been published, so make them aware, but we're not going to use it all the time to like irritate our followers, so we'll be using this as and when required. As you can see in the report, there are also some insights as to how the @followers feature was used compared to how when it wasn't used. So it got more interactions and more engagements when the @followers feature was used. 1.3, the follower numbers are increasing across all service areas. And as of today, the Town Council Facebook account is around 90 followers of 13,000 followers. 90 followers, 90 followers of 13,000 followers, 13,000 followers of Facebook. 1.4 and 1.5, as you can see in the report, there are some insights into what the top 3 most performing posts and stories across Instagram and Facebook. So like utilising the same like images and videos of the content are performing quite well. 1.6, for the councillor surgery this month, we promoted it with a video alongside a different graphic to see if it would attract more residents to attend the surgeries. Agenda item 4, the website has been performing well and had over 16,000 website visitors over the last 2 months and saw a continued trend of people accessing the website via mobile. Agenda item 7, Talk of the Town delivery for the Christmas edition will commence on the 5th of October. An additional 600 copies will be sent to the distribution company to accommodate for the increase in infrastructure. An additional 200 copies will be printed overall that will be distributed to the businesses and other town council premises. Since today, there has been noted that Queen's Court was not delivered to, and that has been flagged with the distribution company, and I'll make sure to keep a note if this occurrence happens again.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, you've got a question? Comment?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Comment. I'm going to do the comment first. The street food, oh my gosh, the street food, I can't even say it, the Street Food Heroes event last week, there was a post with Gen Z talk on it, and it was brilliant. It was so good. I've watched it so many times. I've been showing it to everybody. I loved it. Like, that was brilliant, and loads of comments on it as well, loads of likes. Everyone loved it. So like, wow, that was awesome. I do have a question. Like, obviously the engagement figures, the likes and the followers are all good, but Bennett Splash Park on Instagram, now it's entirely possible that I've been blocked from that page, but I can't find it, and it's only got 11 followers, and I've just tried to find it again, but I can't find it on Instagram, and I just wanted to have a look at that. Maybe I'm blocked. That's not impossible.
I will look into that, and the Splash Park Instagram was only set up fairly recently. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, brilliant work, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Councillor Holly, and then Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at point 5, really, external communications. In the old days, we used to have a reporter sitting at the end, and he would do a report for the Gazette. I did ask Steve Sims, who's the, I think, commissioning editor, I don't know exactly what his title is, having a fairly good relationship with him with my fortnightly column. I did ask whether they might be interested in a report about our major committees and maybe the town council. And I was wondering if there was any thought about communicating with the Gazette and recording some of the decisions that we make at council and at the committee meetings, which would, I don't know if it would necessarily encourage a greater following of the Gazette, but it would at least put some news about Dunstable in, because people complain there's not a great deal about Dunstable.
Yeah, you can.
So we are getting quite hot at issuing press releases which go to the Gazette on a very regular basis. Council meetings, and then we've had comments as well about, can we do more to promote council meetings beforehand and encourage people to log in and see what's happening at them, which we are seeking to do. Council meetings aren't always as interesting to members of the public as they are to us. And so some items, for example, if council agreed to, excuse me, fund a play park, the press release saying council agrees to fund a play park is probably less interesting than the press release saying the mayor's just opened a play park with a picture of the mayor at the play park. So because council meetings aren't very photogenic, it's always the same photo of us sitting here making a decision. It would take quite a lot of effort and energy to make every council committee meeting interesting enough for the Gazette to cover it. And they certainly won't put any effort. That would have to be our kind of our writing to do that. If there's anything that you see on an agenda or you think's happened in a meeting afterwards, then do say to us and prompt us to say you thought about putting something out about this. We did go through a season of putting out something about every meeting beforehand, and I think it quite quickly got to the point where people are clearly a lot more interested in other things we talk about than in saying there's another committee meeting coming around. But it is a tricky one to actually put stuff out that people are going to be interested and engaged with, depending on what's on the agenda.
Okay, and Councillor Brennan first, and then
I had kind of a similar question, but different, and mine was talking to town, and can we consider, I was at Citizens Advice AGM and John Buckledy was there, and he was talking about when he was leaving Dunstable Gazette, he got a box of pictures of Dunstable from like way back in the day, and I think it would be a really good idea. And I raise you that I'm going to say exactly the same thing in the next item of the 40th commemoration of Dunstable, but I think it would be a really good idea if we just put in Talk of the Town a thing that would draw people to it, which would be old pictures of Dunstable that we could ask John Buckley. Like, I know people have connections with him. He might be interested in writing something for the Talk of the Town and putting some pictures in Talk of the Town. I think it would be a really good thing just to get more. People might actually pick it up and go, oh, what's going to be in this month's Talk of the Town, or this quarter's Talk of the Town? Show me some pictures. People love old pictures of stuff, especially Dunstable.
On
When
that
you
point, I know some magazines actually run like a 100 years, 25 years, 10 years, so you can compare some of the either the sites or how the town has changed over a period. It only has to be like a slim sort of 3-photo thing, but certainly crops up in things like that, like magazines and stuff like that, just to show you the history of how things have changed.
I just think we could approach him. It
Along
would
those
be-
lines.
I think it would be, John Buckley would probably possibly be well up for it.
People quite often just like seeing the horse and carts going down the high street.
Yeah.
Finish, Mr. Brennan?
I'm finishing.
Councillor Crawley? No.
Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I was at the council surgery we held the other day also. And there was I'm not sure, wasn't 100, but I didn't catch the first thing you said, Peter, so I apologise if you've said this bit already. But there was a lady very vocal about not hearing what the council was doing, despite us explaining several times how we were advertising them. And she was adamant that her and many people she knows were missing stuff. One of the suggestions that popped into my head as I was talking, and it may be impractical, the board that we use to advertise events, the big flashy bright up thing, could that, now that we are encouraging people to speak at every meeting and having a public question time, could we use that more regularly when we have a full council meeting to say full council meeting next Monday, just so that people know that they can contact with a contact number or something at the bottom so that people can get their comments and questions across?
I will investigate. I suspect if it's the week before, say, a party in the park, it'll be a bit of a competitive conversation. So it'll depend a bit on the time of year, but I don't see why quite sometimes you couldn't do that.
I just wanted to come back on what Councillor Brennan said. I think that's a brilliant idea. John Buckley knows so much about this town and he's really good at telling stories. Actually, he's very engaging. And it was him that did the post, the Gen Z talk the other day, and I would love to see something like that where he combines the two things. It was so good, honestly, it was so good, and I think a lot of younger people really, really liked it. So I might sort of get them engaged with how it used to be and how it is now, and so that people can actually see that there are improvements in our town, because I think there's a section from some that the town's not always that great, and it is great. So I think it'd be nice to show how it used to be as well. In an engaging post as well as making pictures in a magazine. Just my comments on that. I think it's a great idea.
Councillor Jones?
Just on the West Street window, is it being fully utilised? Are we still getting lots of new interest coming through?
Yeah, we get a lot of emails through for submissions, and I do put out on social posts to encourage people to send in visuals that they can put in the window.
Okay, and is that somewhere we could be putting our list of our meeting dates and the fact that it's an open public question opportunity ourselves? We should be advertising our meetings in that window.
I think it was up here. We've shown our units, despite really talking to the town so many times. Do we publish all the meetings in the talk? Yeah, right. That's good, because obviously the lady's not going to be in the talk of the town. And I don't think we send input to the Vine at the moment, but I know the Vine pick up on most of our things, but tend to be a little bit late.
We do
Can
send
we
stuff
get the
to
stuff to
Vine.
the Vine quicker?
Yeah. Well, we send it out as soon as we've got it to everyone.
Right,
Yeah, we do.
They operate on a very slow timescale.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. And Councillor Brennan, that's you.
Just, no idea, is there any chance that we could approach BBC Three Counties Radio? Like, it might be an idea if we try and drum up engagement that you could, there might be a show that they might be like, that they might be interested in someone, either the mayor or the chief executive, just coming on at one point in the week and saying, hey, check out what we're doing at Dunstable Town Council. Look how fun and exciting we are as we sit around the
I think
table.
Rachel's going to answer.
I do have a contact for BBC Three Counties Radio, but it's as and when they want to be present at things, it's when it seems to be the barrier. So I do drop various emails, to the contact that I have. They did phone in about Sky being on BBC Three Counties Radio. So it seems to be as and when they want to pick something up.
Yes, just on that point, I think there are lots of different contacts at BBC Three Counties Radio. I've been contacted quite a lot recently, and I've often declined their invitations to come on and speak on radio. It's making me a little nervous sometimes. You can't undo that. But I also have a pretty good contact in there who I invited to the bench unveiling, and it took a little persuasion. But when I told him Marty Ideas was going to be there late the night before, they did come and they made an effort. So I don't know, maybe we can pool our contacts and make a list of who we're contacting there, because it seems that some may be more interested than others at the radio station. It's good, it's a good point.
Yes, also in the 40th plan for the 40th anniversary, which I know we're going to hold on to, we would be putting out a number of press releases through the year about different things, which would hopefully attract some interest from them at different points. So we'll keep putting stuff out and trying to get coverage as we can.
Thank you. That's a good segue to the next topic. The next topic is the 40th anniversary celebrations. So Shaila's going to go through the options here for us.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure Paul will also combine with writing this report. So the purpose of this report is for the members to consider and agree upon the options to mark the Town Council's 40th year 25-26. As you'll be aware, both Grounds and Environmental Services and Community Services have also received a report for their service areas. So this is covering hours from the civic and marketing options available. So the background, as you know, we commenced, Dunstable Town Council started 40 years ago next year, and what we would like to do is a combination of corporate marketing ideas, running a civic and democratic options, but mainly putting together a 40th anniversary Mayor's Valentine's Ball. I've just noticed it says February 24, actually February 25, apologies for that. And then together with Councillor Hollick's book that he's putting together. So we've put some information, a brief summary of information on the corporate marketing for you to look at. As you'll see that the budget for that is actually, we already budget for corporate marketing across the council. We still have some street dressing budget and reserve available. And if you were to approve next year's budget in line with what we've already produced for the 5-year budget, the general marketing budget and the street dressing reserve contribution can also be used as part of the corporate marketing that we are suggesting. And then moving on to the civic and democratic, the officers, together with the mayor, have discussed the options of holding the 40th Mayor's Ball next February as a sort of kickstart to the anniversary year. That will be run
as a civic mayoral event, so at no cost to the council, the ticket prices and everything would cover the would and hopefully it'll be a good event, should you agree? Can't comment on the book, so would that be Councillor Hollick?
Councillor Holly, would you like us to, like to updates on your book?
Okay, yes, indeed. I'll bring you up to date with where we are. I'm quite enjoying ploughing through 40 years of committee minutes. It's bringing back quite a lot of memories one way or another. I've completed 21 years and at the moment we've got 33 pages. I've got obviously 19 years to go. I've already done 9 pages, but I have to pad that out, so to speak, with information from the minute books. And I reckon that possibly at the end of the day, it would be something in the order of about 50 pages. So it would be quite a comprehensive list of what the town council has been up to, not only what we have necessarily done immediately ourselves, but also interactions with the former county council and South Beds district council as well, where there are events like the railway and getting that instead of the busway, and the Queensway Hall and the Grove Theatre and so on. So hopefully it's going to be of interest to a number of people. So I will plough on with the next 19 years, and I have sort of drawn up a draft list of people who might be interested, and I've come to about 60 odd people, including, for example, the MP and our 2 immediate past MPs, and there are people like perhaps certain businesses in the town and so on. One will have to make a decision as to whether or not everyone who would like a copy is actually charged a small amount to cover the costs. At the moment, I've had a quote from Perfect Print. I think it's about £358 for 100 copies. The list that I've got would account for about 60 of those copies, but I'm sure there are other people who could well be interested in purchasing. I think that the Chief Executive Officer at Central Beds ought to have a copy so that he knows what goes on in Dunstable, as well as the directors there. Maybe they have a free copy so that they actually get one rather than us asking if they'd like one. And people like upper school heads maybe as well, because we should be, I think, doing a little bit more with the schools, connecting with them a little bit more. People who, or at least bodies on whom we sit as representatives of the town council as well, is another group of people who could be interested. So 100 copies seems quite reasonable at this stage. There would also be a number of photos in it. I've got to get a photograph of Friar, what is it called, Friar's House? I forgot what it's called now. Where the office used to be at the corner of Friar's Walk and High Street South. The council in its current guise did start off at Charterhouse, and I must find out where Charterhouse is. Okay, sorry? Opposite here or opposite?
So it's where Rejuvenate is.
Oh, right, okay. So obviously a picture there, and then maybe a page about pictures about Priory House and Gardens, and also Grove House and Gardens. So I guess, and then obviously I think since I've set the book up in terms of mayoral years, then I think it would be useful to have a picture probably, and the dates and names of all the mayors. So that's 40 odd of them, which would be about 3 or 4 pages, plus say about 4 or 5 pages, other pages of other areas of where the council has an interest. So it's progressing.
The idea of having the pictures in there makes it look more of a coffee table book as well. So
Indeed.
Dunstable's changed over the years again. Sure.
I think most of you, if not all of you, should have had a copy of the Dunstable International Twinning Association leaflet that I did, and I would see it as something along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holly. Councillor Brennan, you had a
Do we
question?
need to go back to Don't need to finish the.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's been fine.
You're okay?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So,
So you can discuss any part of that report.
so there's this man called John Buckledy, and I think it'd be a really good idea. As for the 40th anniversary, you could do a centerfold. You could do like 2 pages of pictures of Dunstable over the past 40 years. Someone get in touch with John Buckledy. That's all I'm saying.
We already have.
He's in quite often, so.
Okay, great.
They have rooms upstairs that they use.
Amazing.
Councillor Jones? Then
Just for me, 40 years, surely there's enough there for an exhibition, even if it was an
Absolutely.
exhibition
Yeah.
here in Grove House. So it's open to the public for a couple of weeks, Monday to Friday, in here with the boards up, like a bit like we do for In Bloom, where we have the interpretation boards up
Yeah.
and we get the History Society to actually work with us to have that exhibition. It's a free exhibition then, isn't it? Apart from having the door open and having an odd member or councillors here throughout the 2 weeks to come and talk.
And we get a coffee machine as well.
Well, there you go. But for me, that's just another way of publicising our 40 years, and it'd be quite good in the evenings if it was doable. There's lots of brownie groups, lots of schools that all want to get involved in what's going on in the town and the history of the town. They would love, and scout groups, they would love to come in and see that and have like a little talk.
Councillor Crawley first.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just have a point of clarification on the, on point 3.3? The branding of £1,000 on there. Is that anything to do with item 16? Or is that separate type branding? Because if it is to do with item 16, I don't think we can recommend.
I think that might be contributing towards it, so it would be something to do with like 40 emblem.
Right, okay, that's fine.
So, just on the point that it was raised about having an exhibition of some sort, I've been trying to contact the Quadrant about the old nightclub because I've had somebody who does art with fabric. She wants to do an immersive exhibition there. I don't know if that's even a possibility, but I've been trying to inquire. However, I just thought maybe we could combine the two things. The room's dressed and could possibly go there, I don't know. If we needed a space. Oh, but then there's also the Square Methodist Church, they've got loads of space.
That might disrupt them a bit, I think.
So we'll definitely take back the whole exhibition idea, because I haven't really discussed that.
No,
But now you said it, it sounds like a good
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
But just doing it in here has a lot to be said for it, because it's
Yeah.
kind of, being in here is part of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
You've got the history in this building,
So I think
you've got the memory boards outside, you've got all the, you've got so much in here.
we can do tours of the attic.
There's a basement.
Plus, you're asking the people, the public probably said they want to be more engaged. So if you bring them in here, they know,
Exactly.
they say, oh, this is where you're having meetings, yeah.
With the future plan on the wall at the end, so you walk through history and then you get to the future.
Yes.
Councillor Gunning, was that your point you wanted to make?
No, there's another point.
Yeah.
The idea of having a kickstart with a Valentine's ball before the actual municipal year starts, because it'd be 2025, not 24, obviously. If we go for that, then could we not then make that an annual event for the mayor with a civic event? Because really, the 40th anniversary starts in May next year, goes around for a year. So really, we should be having it in 2026. I've got no objection to having it next year and then carry on the year after.
Let's make one point here. I know members will probably want other points on that. My one point would be, as officers, we're kind of seeing the 40th anniversary is lasting about 15, 16, 17 months. So we're trying to stretch it as much as we can. So it kind of starts in 2025, but goes right through to May 2026. In our suggestion, but happy to take other direction.
So you're saying it could carry on for the next year, every 2 years?
My comment is just on the length of it. I think other members want to say something about it.
Sorry, Councillor Baker first.
No, I was just saying, we did one time in Lisbon, remember, that we used to have a civic ball every year. I don't know why it stopped, but there was a civic ball it was every year.
So it's called Pine Park.
Would you- no, it's
No,
not. So,
Councillor Jones.
okay, so I believe 2015 was the last time that there was a mayor's ball. That happened to be my first year as mayor, because after that, the mayors of that time chose to have dinners, low-key dinners, or didn't have dinners. It's the mayor's choice whether they hold an event of that extreme nature. It's a massive undertaking, is all I would say. It's a massive undertaking, and you would need everybody around this table to really commit to supporting the mayor in attending and organising such a big event and selling tickets. Do an event of that magnitude with the cost of living crisis is a big undertaking, and we need to all get behind it and support it if it's going to go ahead. But you know, the last mayor's ball was 2015, and we just haven't happened. So we've all done our different things in the years of mayors. Some mayors want to do it, some mayors don't want to do those sort of things. It's individual. It's an individual thing, and so unless the council's going to take on the responsibility of organising that civic ball, you can't say we're going to do one every year. It's the mayor's decision.
Councillor Tamara, that's fine. Okay, Tamara,
Thank you, Chair. That's absolutely fine. Just a point of clarification for me, if you can. The idea of having the anniversary for, 16 months, I just wondered, have you mapped out, what the milestone of that 16 months is going to be, and what are the intention and cost implication and all this kind of stuff? Have you talked, about straight down to what those implications are going to be?
To a degree, yeah. So obviously this is the third committee, and each committee's had different proposals for the 40th anniversary. So if you put those three sets of proposals together, then you start to get a picture of the whole period. So the comms is the bit which will be most consistent through the period. So there'll be something in Talk of the Town, there'll be something going out every month. There'll be a particular focus around the fortnight of fun. So the events team are really saying we're going to do a fortnight and bring together various things we already do and add something into it. So it's a really high focus fortnight. But there'll be other key milestones through that 40 years. So having the branding up along the high street obviously is there for the year, so that's a really clear indication. Now we're talking about an exhibition, we'll do that a different part of the year. So a lot of what we're planning on doing is adding a bit of value to business as usual. So in the way that there's always a lot going on anyway, there'll be definitely something every month. Every Talk of the Town would have something. Once we've seen what members have agreed or liked or not liked in this committee round, then we'll be able to put together a proper timeline for the year, what it looks like.
Thank you. Well, let me just make my 2 pence comment on the idea of the exhibition. I think it will be a fantastic way to go. I think presenting, Grove House as a place for the year, for an exhibition for young people, schools, inviting secondary school as well as primary schools to come in and see what the council is all about and what the council does, as well as showcasing the milestone, what Dunstable used to look like and what it is now. There are many people. I do personally have lots of photographs from, God knows, 50, 60, 100 years ago in that building there. And some of it, John actually gave it to me. So it will be, the right thing to do.
At that point, just an unofficial vote, doesn't carry any weight. Who's behind the idea of the exhibition for the celebrations? Just give the council guys an idea of what's going to happen. Yeah, so we will work on that one. So, any other questions on the or points of the report so far. If not, I'll go to the vote on the individual items. Okay, so we'll take each one in turn. Just to reiterate that generally speaking, these are not additional costs. These are, a lot of these costs are already in the budget, just to make that clear. So it's not additional funding. So we have, if I can find them, down the bottom. So we have lamppost banners, designs and installations, £6,700. You can raise your hand if you're happy with that. Okay. Approved. Branding, £1,000. Anyone against or? Bunting and installation. Okay. Then we have funding for the advance. Okay. Okay, so that's the funding options. So is that the actual, just the 3 items?
Yes, the corporate marketing, yes, we just covered, and then the mayor's ball.
So officers together to vote on the mayor's ball now? Okay.
Not really,
Not
because
no.
the whole point of the mayor's board, it's absolutely the mayor's
Yeah.
discretion. Take account of Councillor Jones' point that a wise mayor would be seeking expertise and what help we doing it. It's not a council decision, it's a mayoral decision.
Okay. So please, yeah, you can say please.
So, with regards to the ball, it was suggested that we might have one to celebrate 40th anniversary. And I thought, my first thoughts were, oh my gosh, that might actually be quite expensive. But then I thought about it, and I thought about Cinderella ball, and I thought that's not really the kind of thing that we have. So people wouldn't necessarily have to pay a lot of money to, buy expensive dresses and stuff like that. And we are in cost of living crisis, so I'm very much aware of that. So then I thought, well, do you know what? We've had COVID, we've had a lot of kind of downtime, and we're just really getting back to normal now. It feels like this year we really are getting back to normal. People are starting to come out and, engage in events, etc. We've seen record numbers. So I thought actually it could be a really good idea. So my thinking is that we get a headline act. So I've approached somebody that is rather famous, and hopefully they'll agree. So that will be the sort of selling point of the event itself. We did have elements to the event, so that the first couple of hours will be obviously dinner and maybe some awards and things like that, and then the last couple of hours dancing and just generally enjoying ourselves. So there will be a corporate feel to it, in the sense that there will be some tables that will be sold to businesses, and then there'll also be some cheaper tickets for people that may have some barrier with being able to afford the corporate table. And then it's also my hope that we might have a section of tickets that are either free for those that really need to have access to free tickets, or a donation only. So I want to make it really inclusive and diverse, so that there's no barrier for anybody to attend if they want to. It's still very early planning stages. We've still got to capture numbers with the venue that we've already sort of got earmarked. So potentially there's scope to make quite a lot of money for the charities, as well as a really good and fun event for the town, and hopefully give something for people to talk about. And they'll know the act. Hopefully, all ages will. So yeah, that's just my bit on it. But no cost to council. It will be self-funded via ticket sales and sponsorship.
What's the space then?
Yes.
Okay.
So when are our Oasis coming to Dunstable?
Sorry?
When's our Oasis coming to Dunstable?
Sorry?
Oasis.
Tickets,
Taylor Swift might come up, whoever she is.
The next item is the honorary Freeman and Free Woman report. Sam Clufford, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. So the proposal is to re-enliven the concept of free men and free women of Dunstable. which as you'll see from the report, we're legally able to do. It has to be honorary freeman. That's what the law allows us to do. The proposal I've put together is based on practice in other places. We wouldn't have to do it as I've described. How we do it is entirely up to us, except that you have to have a separate meeting with the council just for this purpose. And it has to be 2/3 of councillors who vote in favour of any particular nominations. The proposal is that as part of the 40th anniversary at some point, we would announce and award one or more persons of honorary free person of the town. We would spend a bit of money purchasing an additional honour board to put up the historic free women of the town, and then the others we put onto that. If you're happy with going ahead with that approach, I'd suggest it's a fairly straightforward matter if you wish to agree to do it and to create an honour board. The matter of exactly how those awards are made is then perhaps a slightly more nuanced discussion. So the choice really is, as councillors, would that be something you just want to make? Would you like to invite residents of Dunstable to make nominations? If so, we could just invite people to make nominations in writing to me and then you consider them. We could go for a proper press campaign. Dunstable's going to make its first free woman of the town for 40 to 50 years and invite people to vote on Facebook and create a conversation around it. Now, there's a strength and a weakness in that approach. The strength is you create a really strong conversation, you get all kinds of ideas coming in. The weakness is you can't necessarily manage the conversation. And actually, you don't necessarily want the most prominent person at a particular moment in time. This really is about actually who deserves over years or decades something where they've really done something a bit different, where you want to make a particular award to that person. So it may be something you feel it's more appropriate to simply discuss as members in confidential session initially, rather than put it out to the public. I guess it's how you feel about it in principle, and then that conversation around the process. Happy to work with whatever you think might be appropriate.
Oh, Councillor Jones, and then
So I'm supportive of bringing this in. Ex-councillor Kane, past mayor, he wanted to bring it in during his year of office, but for whatever reason it didn't come to fruition. It was something that he muted at that time, and we've never really done it. But I think, you know, it goes quite rightly with our 40th anniversary, doesn't it? And it's around the historic nature of our town, and it's about being that civic pride and being part of it. And there are a number of people out there, and I don't want any of us to name potential names tonight, but there are a number of people out there in our community who potentially could be quite worthy of such an award. So I think it's the right thing for me, it's the right thing to do at the right time, and I'm supportive of it.
Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, I also support the idea. I think it's a fabulous idea. In terms of the question about how, obviously we need to come back to the detail. There is something about taking it to the public to get that discussion, and also to kind of diversify the range of different types of contribution that we might think about as councillors.
Yeah.
So I probably encourage the second of those, even though it might be a bit more difficult to manage.
But you go out, you ask, don't you? You get them to come back to Paul.
Yeah.
It then comes to council to decide.
Yeah.
Maybe, potentially, but that way at least you're asking them, aren't you?
Councillor Gurney.
Yes, I agree with the proposal as well. And I also agree that the general public should be involved in some way in actually making or agreeing what we're going to do, but then coming back to the council to actually decide who gets the award, because obviously if anybody could be nominated, and if you had a public vote it would be quite difficult to then sort of say, well, they may be popular this year, but what have they really done as such? The other thing is 7.1, it said at any time a maximum of 4 people, and that's otherwise decided. I wouldn't understand why you limit it to 4 people. I think it would be a good thing to have as an annual event, as an annual sort of person. But if you're sort of limiting it to 4, that means you've got to wait for someone to die, I suppose, and then someone else can because I can't see anybody sort of giving it up as such.
Yeah, fair point. So that's one example of something I've just taken from somewhere else as a suggested approach. What I would say is, certainly if you look at historically, it was far from being an annual award. So over the decades, it was kind of every 10 years, 2 every 10 years, that kind of number without doing maths on it. And it's the challenge of balancing it between making it really significant and important. Because if you make it annual, I think that would reduce its impact. Having the, or maybe you'd want to be a bit vaguer than that and say about 4 or once every council could only do it once every term or something. I mean, any rule that you make, the next council can choose to break it away, to be fair. But I think the principle needs to be, if we're going to make 1 or more awards next year, you wouldn't then, certainly in this council term, be looking to make any more. You'd be looking to kind of do that, and then that is what it is for a little while. And absolutely, yeah, people have that award until they die. So
Yeah.
and then it's not hereditary, whereas some other systems that we can't do are hereditary. Was another document available, which some councils do, would be you could introduce other things as well. So you could introduce the Dunstable Brilliant Citizen Award or Friend of Dunstable. So you could introduce something else which sits under it, which does become an annual process if that's what you wanted to do. I know Councillor Jones did various kind of mayoral awards last year. So you could adopt that as a council approach. So you could have Freeman of Dunstable, but also some kind of other annual scheme if you wanted us to bring back something that we could do if we thought that would be appropriate.
Thank you. I met Freeman of Houghton Regis on Friday, who's actually a woman, but she was awarded a Freeman certificate. So I think it's really nice. There were 3 that were awarded in April in Houghton Regis, and I think it'd be great if we could do the same in Dunstable and sort of reinvigorate that. But yeah, I'm also not sure about the whole how it's ordered. Is that right, that at any one time you might have a maximum of 4? I think you probably just said this.
It's just a suggestion.
Can we have as many as we like? Can we?
But legally, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I think it's retaining the
Is it-
special
Yeah, of course.
position that it holds, that the more you do it, dilutes the
Sure,
recognition of that.
but we wouldn't have to wait for somebody to not hold that anymore before we could award someone else in 10 years sort of thing.
If we did every 4 years, then it's not so bad, is it? If it's once per council term or
twice per council term. Because you can't award it to somebody who sadly has passed away in the meantime, can you? So
No,
it's only doing once in every 4 years,
Yeah.
potentially recipients are missing out. So I think,
Yeah.
you need to, for me, I'd be suggesting we did it twice in a council term.
Councillor Crawley, so come back to you.
Thanks, Chair. So I think as a council, we are constantly modernising a lot of our practices. So a lot of our working practices, we're looking to keep in line with modern practices and updating regulations. But I think ultimately, and I think we should think of, I want to kind of help you consider this for a later item as well. What we do as a council well is history and pageantry. The mayor's gowns, the wig, whatever it is you call it, that you wear at the £40 meetings, the ceremonies for the Remembrance Day, thank you, I couldn't think of the name. All of that is really, really important to the town, and I think that this should be one of those things. And I think, it's something that we shouldn't water down by doing it too often, definitely, but it should be something we bring in. If we can do it, we should do it. And there's got to be people in our community that everybody recognises as a upstanding citizen, and that we should recognise for sure.
From my point of view, I support it as well, and I'm sure there's everyone around this table have got someone back in their mind that they can nominate. They just know those do so many things for Dunstable, but don't necessarily get any recognition. So I think it might be a tough time trying to pick the winners at the end of this. But, so we've got any other?
I'll just thank you. I was just going to make a suggestion and also think about when we're talking about the putting in a public forum for the, something like Facebook, for example. you can't control the conversation. And unfortunately, there are too many Facebook warriors. You know, so one person can turn something that is really exciting and good for a town into something else. One person can have a wrong opinion of somebody that has been suggested, and that could turn to something else. So my suggestion would be that, you know, maybe something like an talk of the town and have that, but the people of Dunstable can actually write to the chief executive with a proposal of the person, and they could actually write the reason why they're proposing that this person is
That's
recognized.
what we're aiming at.
Yeah, I think that's what it says.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
you've got-
rather than Facebook stuff.
It's going to be a written proposal, right? Obviously, you can get by writing, because not everyone's on.
Yeah,
internet.
because Facebook is not the right place to be.
It's an email of submission, of course. So we'll use different access points, but the key thing will be, it's not an open discussion. It's you as a person nominate someone and back
Yeah.
that nomination with some sort of history of the person.
It's a bit like the citations, isn't it? When you nominate somebody for an honour.
Yeah.
You go through that citation award process, you submit it and you sit and you wait for the announcement.
Yeah.
So it's similar to that in my eyes.
Brilliant.
What do they actually get?
Certificate. The name
Well,
of the
I
board.
know it says they get a scroll, but what perks do they get? Like, I know that it's an honorary reuse of the copy.
Graze a sheep on any available grass areas? No.
I was wondering like what, you
It's,
know, what
I
are
think,
they,
I think,
they get? I get that it's like recognition.
it's just a recognition, isn't it?
It's recognition.
I think it is what
Like-
it is.
Yeah.
So actually, hopefully you would award to someone who will think, actually being made a Freeman and Freeman of Dunstable, that really matters to me, and I appreciate that, and the certificate and the event that says that. And that's what it is, and you can call yourself, you can describe yourself as an honorary Freeman of the town.
Sure.
Maybe happy to take that suggestion.
You had like a Toblerone or something like really,
Maybe a little.
something really nice.
Sort of a gold pen or something like that, you mean, or?
So I can follow up on that point. So traditionally, if you look upstairs in the corridor, there's 2 or 3 certificates, historic ones, which are quite something. There's one, I thought it was fabric, but it's definitely paper and it's been written out. So, and you're talking a few £100s to get a properly done one, if that's what you want to do. You can print them off as well, depends how you want to do it. So having a proper scroll, that's quite a thing. There's all kinds of things you could do. So you could give someone a salver or a pen or a whatever else you might think is appropriate, and people sell us pretty much anything you want to give someone, if that's what we wanted to do. I think this, because the scroll is a traditional Dunstable thing, and you can see where people have been given them in the past, that you've got that connection with history. So like someone was given in 1966, you've got what they had, and you're the first one to get it since someone had it in 1966, they introduced the town. I think that's the most powerful thing. Anything else, you're basically buying someone's stuff and put their name on it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's really
No,
good.
sorry, sketch of that.
My other suggestion, I was just thinking, in New York, for example, bringing American to this conversation, they key to the city, you know. It might be something like that you have the key of Dunstable, and then you have the imprint of the town council on that key.
That was what I was thinking about. I was thinking of something.
And that is actually on the scroll as well. That key,
I do really
whatever is
like
on that key is on that scroll, and that is part of the presentation.
I really appreciate Paul's explanation of it though, like the whole scroll thing and the history of the scroll. So, it's sort of stopped me
Yeah,
in my
they're not going to get a free suit. That's the point, right? No, I'm not.
Councillor Jones, thank you very much.
So just on what we were talking about was maybe one of the other perks of becoming the free man, woman of the town. When we have our civic events like Remembrance, like your civic services as mayors, they're invited as a civic guest. They
Yeah.
become a civic invitation to all of our civic events.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're just as up there as the past mayors as such, that, you know, they take their place with the past mayors.
Yeah.
So we bring them
Sounds
in
good.
and keep them engaged in the community life. with us in that way as well. But just on the scroll, for pictures that I've looked at and researched, the scroll's lovely, but it gets folded up and put away. Actually, the pictures I've seen is the scroll being presented in a lovely frame, wooden frame, that they then have the frame and they can then put that straight onto their wall.
Yeah.
They haven't got the cost of framing it, we frame it for
Make it
them.
a little bit smaller than
No,
keep
it needs
keep
to
it
be,
short.
doesn't it? But, you know, for me, we the frame with the scroll inside it is a gift for them, isn't it, from the town as well.
Saying that, even the.
So, councillor Brennan, can I just ask, councillor Crawley, can
Liz basically said what I was going to say, so I was going to expand that and say that maybe on, I don't know how much we can ask of this person, we could just, these people, whether or not they can theoretically take the place of the mayor, the deputy mayor, at events as a free person of Dunstable. If on occasions that we couldn't attend an event as a kind of honorary kind of, unfortunately the deputy mayor is busy also, but we have got Helen from whoever else who is the free person of Dunstable. I don't know whether that's possible.
Just on that point, I think that one's a bit less likely because our approach is it's the mayor, the deputy or past mayors, and that way you've got someone who you know is going to know how it works. Whereas who knows, you might quite correctly point someone as a free woman or free man of the town who's had a bit more of a radical life and doesn't behave in public the way that you all might do.
On the scenes.
From the start of it, exciting, wouldn't it?
Factors listen to me as well. Past mayors get their badge in politics, don't they?
Yeah.
So why don't we introduce a ribbon with a badge on, with the emblem on, with
Free person.
or whatever, however, whatever your wording you're going to use, then they've got that. When they're at civic events, they wear it with pride. I think it's Amptill that do it at their civic service every year, and they have like little lapel, like medals, badges that they clip onto jackets.
Yeah.
Rather than a badge around a thing. So there's things out there for exactly this purpose, but at least they'll have something then long term to wear at the events as well.
And on that,
Thank you. Yeah, just on the subject of like, what does a free man or free woman get as part of being, given that title? It is, there are loads online, there's loads of translations for it. But the thing that sticks out to me is that that person has the freedom of the town. And they are almost like an ex-mayor, but not quite really an ex-mayor. But traditionally, they would sit sort of under the king. We're never kings and stuff, that were fighting battles and things. We don't know that. But no, I just thought, like if you think of having the freedom of the town, you would literally have the keys to everything in the town. In the olden days, perhaps. Maybe we could give them free parking everywhere. I don't know. Maybe we could get some kind of that. They might be able to negotiate something.
Just in the town centre.
yeah, I don't know. I'll take one more if anyone else has got any comments, otherwise I'll take to the votes. Get your numbers ready. Actions to be recommended to agree to consider awarding the honour of honorary free man or free woman of Dunstable during the town council's 40th year in 2025-26. Those in favour? Okay, so carried. 1.2 to agree to the purchase of honour boards to commemorate past and future free men and free women of the town. Okay, so that one. And then finally, to agree to adopt the proposed approach describing considering future free men and free women, which is, broadly speaking, proposals will be put to.
Jeff, just given the conversation, I think members hopefully would agree an approach similar to that described, with involving some kind of public communication, but not with a limit of 4. But recognising it is going to be occasional, not an annual.
Yeah.
So, all those in favour? Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, we should be broadly discussed. Okay. Right. Right, next we have flag flying report. Again from Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. So very briefly, we've had a flag flying. I don't know if it's a formally agreed policy, but there was always a list of dates to fly the flag, which the Rangers were given and taken down. Things have changed, so sovereign's changed, so some of the dates have changed. A couple of years ago, with the then Mayor's mission, we purchased a town flag which now flies all the time, whereas we used to raise the flag just for key events. You can't do that because it's up all the time, so that changes the dynamic a little bit. So we've tried to balance between noting the key dates, so Bedfordshire Day being an obvious one, Armed Forces Day, and we put in also LGBT Pride, the first and last days of June, which quite a few councils do, rather than have it at. I had added in Merchant Navy Day, which isn't there.
I don't remember reading it.
And I had taken that. Members, you've got the slightly wrong table there.
Oh, merchant Navy, because it's not some.
The intelligent ones. You don't have from any.
Right, where's that AI?
Prince William.
Merchant Navy's.
Yeah.
Okay, members, could we revisit that at the next meeting, please? Apologies.
Is it just one amendment you need to make?
No, it's 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Do you want to just say what they are, Beck? Would it be easier?
Yeah.
Unless it's not, if it's not contentious, I think we can.
Yeah, because we
Delegate authority
give me
to allow you to add dates to the flag flying calendar as appropriate.
yes, I believe it's to add in Merchant Navy Day and buy a Merchant Navy Day flag. Commonwealth Day is not on there and should be.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Monday in March.
Second Monday.
Second Monday in March.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not on.
I think we could probably delegate authority, because I don't think is anyone going to complain about us flying different flags?
No,
Oh, no, I think that's all right. I take it back. If we can add Merchant Navy Day and Merchant Mission, then that is
Do we know the date of that offhand? Just
not on top of my head, no.
Okay, but Councillor Jones?
My only comment would be, could we have a look at the quality of our flags and make sure that we are flying flags that are not fraying to the point that they're fraying in the wind and they look scruffy. If we're going to fly flags, let's fly them nice ones.
Yes. I like for examples after meeting.
Our Union Jack one might need looking at. And equally, I still going to put another request in for another flag post to be up near the clock tower somewhere, because it's all very well that flag flying here. You can't see it. If there's no wind, you cannot see that flag flying out there. Centre of town, we want to get more people, more visibility in the town centre. The Ashton Square middle row is where a flag should be flown.
Just update them before everyone else get their papers going. The Merchant Navy is 3rd of September. Councillor Gavin.
What about Nelson Day? That's first thing. What about Nelson Day?
French visitors.
Well, it's a celebration of victory. And the other thing is, I don't understand, what's the difference between LGBTQAI and without AI?
Two different spellings.
I know, but I don't know what the AI is personally.
Artificial intelligence.
Well, the first bits are.
I think somebody's fingers slipped on the keyboard there. It should be LGBTQ.
Right. So another suggestion is Nelson Day.
So members,
It's Gemini.
make a comment on that. The list we come up with is, which includes Merchant Navy Day, is the list which government includes on its basic list of flag days.
Right.
If we go beyond that, we could fill the year with raising
Yeah, I
flags
know.
for all kind of things quite easily, especially if we go down the military route, then we can very quickly. So that's why we've just got the Commonwealth Day and Merchant Navy Day, because they're the two that feature on government guidance.
If you've already got the flags, that's a bit, it's different, isn't it?
Yeah, we haven't got Merchant Navy Day.
Councillor Jones?
There is an emergency services day that isn't recognised on there. So our blue light service day,
Okay.
there is a national one that I think if we're going to be demonstrating the Armed Forces Day, we're talking about Merchant Navy, our three blue service industries deserve our support as well. And I know, Paul, it just flies against what you've just said, but you know, we've got the ambulance down at the fire station, we've got the fire station, we have our police crews here in town. We need to be supportive, in my view.
Councillor Tamara?
So, I don't disagree with any of this, but are we planning to do any kind of event on these days, or just fly the flag, nobody comes around and that's it?
Is it just fly the flag as far as I know?
So-
So,
Obviously, I haven't gone that far in this report.
Okay.
At the moment, our practice is, it depends on the day. So, for example, on the birthday of the King's Consort, we just put the flag up. On Commonwealth Day, we could say something and the mayor says something, we make a thing out of Commonwealth Day. It may well be that on LGBTQ plus at the start, we would do something about that, because the first time we've done that, people might want to support that. Obviously, Remembrance Day, we do a big thing. Bedfordshire Day, I don't think we do anything.
Up until, well, Private House always used to do like a menu option for Bedfordshire Day, 'cause we used to sell the clanger and different things, but maybe that's something we look to reintroduce.
We actually attend that, actually.
I was gonna say,
Stuff, didn't we?
Yeah.
I like it.
And St George's Day, we don't, there are only a couple of days, so I presume Commonwealth Day and Merchant Navy Day, we do a stand by it and formally lift it, and then but not for the other days. But that might be something members want to develop over time for different ones.
Madam Mayor, you want to come
I
back?
don't think that's time.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I've got Tim.
Honestly, I'm not quite sure the best way to go about this, because obviously there's so many days. The next question then you have to ask is, who's going to be doing this? What, the time allocated to every one of these days. Is this officer's time? Is this, specialist time? Stuff like that. I don't know how this to work, but I think, we possibly want to decide which of these days you want to have representation and that people actually coming down and celebrating while the flag is being raised. That's something I think needs to be clear for the town as a whole. People want to get involved, like the Armed Forces Day, because thinking about the war and the war effort, stuff like that could help.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. So just to go back to the LGBTQAI+, that is correct. That's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex and asexual. The plus represents all the many other identities that may be part of the community, and there's a few more listed. So that is correct. And I think that's great that we should raise a flag on the 1st of June. I've just got a question about why we would then raise it again on the 30th of June for the end of Pride Month. And I imagine that both of those titles should be the same, so they should just both be LGBTQAI+. But is there a reason why we would raise it at the end and not just at the beginning?
So different councils do different things. So some councils raise it for the whole month. And quite a few councils do it for a day at the start and the end to note that it's a month, not just a day. And some do just on the first day of the month.
Before I go on to the other councillors, I'll just make one point myself. Will there be, it'd be idea to have in the notice boards near the flag or in front of the office or down by the town centre if we do have a flagpole, which sounds a good idea, to say what the actual flag is and represents, maybe an idea as well, just so people understand what the different flag stands for. Must be somewhere just on the notice board or But you need to send me a brief description saying this, the flag for Anchor Day is Swords Cross.
A bit of an explanation why. It's actually a good idea, I think.
I'm trying to think exactly where to do it by the flag out there, but we just come up with
Just
something.
a second.
That's a very good idea.
Councillor Brennan?
Do we have any, there, obviously the town rangers are gonna be raising the flags. Is there any chance we could train one of them to use a bugle? I think it would go really well. If they're raising flags all the time, they can be.
Depends what time in the morning.
I can play a bugle badly. If the council wishes to buy me one, I will happily use it.
Awesome.
I think
Come on, guys.
budget design might be active soon, but, Councillor Gurney. Sorry, Crawley.
Thank you, Chair. I've been sidetracked a little bit with my comment by the bugle thing. I'm just wondering what Councillor Brennan would recommend for each tune on each day. There's got to be a different ditty on each day, right? Anyway, moving away. If we're just today voting on just whether we're going with this amended flag, then I'm for it. Basically, that's all I want to say. We've been doing a lot of discussions about where we're going to go from this. If we're just deciding on if we're going for this amended flag raise. It's great, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll build on it afterwards.
Yeah, we'll talk about events later.
If that is it from
So
discussion,
can I just,
one
sorry,
more.
Chair, just bringing back to what Councillor Jones said, we lose emergency services day is the 9th of the 9th, so you do it at 9 o'clock on the 9th of the 9th, I think it's 999. And members may just wish to add that into the list, because that we could do that, and it's obvious, which I'm sure people would support.
Looking at Beagles.
Guys, it's only 90 quid. Come on.
We need to learn it.
I just wanted to say about the putting up a notice about what the flag means. I think that's a really good idea, and I wonder if we could do that in multiple places, like on social media and in the What's On window, because a lot of people I think that it might encourage them to come and see the flag. But with regards to the bugle, I think that's a great idea, and I do know that Liz Jones learned to play ukulele, so we might be able to add that in too.
Oh, from where he's working.
Could we move on, sir? That's the purpose of the report, and to make the recommendation. So for members to approve the recommendations outlined within the report, which is now to have the amended flying flag dates as recommended as follows, which will now include the 3rd of September for our mariners and the 9th of the 9th, which are the blue services. All those in favour? Thank you. Right, next up. The next item, which is to consider the town council becoming a corporate member of Rotary Dunstable at a cost of £180 per year. Any further to say?
Was this on the agenda?
Yeah.
It's not, it's on the agenda.
Item 11.
It's only-
We haven't got any papers, though.
Oh,
There's nothing in our
No,
agenda.
there is no paper
Oh,
for it.
no, no.
It's literally, that's the information.
That is it.
Oh,
We get it.
there is no accompanying report on this occasion. The proposal is to join.
Yeah.
So we've been invited by the Rotary, given that it's their 80th year coming up. They've invited us to join as a corporate member. They're keen to continue and develop their relationship with the town council. They do regularly have a speaker, either usually in there or myself, come and speak to them. They're keen to build that relationship, obviously build their profile and membership and their support for the town, work together. And so their suggestion is £100 we become a corporate member as a way of indicating our ongoing support for them and what they do.
So would this be an outside body like National Armed Forces or Dunstable Citizens Advice Bureau, where we have a designated member that would go to meetings of the Rotary Club?
So you could suggest a designated member. I don't think it'd be a member who'd go to every meeting of the Rotary Club, because they meet every 2 weeks.
Every week.
So that's a more arduous commitment to numbers for most of the things we represent on, but I would imagine it would be going a few times a year. Or arranging for someone from the council to go a few times a year with David Keeling personally.
I mean, we already do that. Or what comes of it, as in what's the benefit to the town council?
It's as much a symbolic thing as anything, so. You can indicate out in the reference now to that.
You have.
Councillor Gurney?
Isn't there a cost to this?
£180, yeah.
A year?
Yeah.
It's a symbolic thing, £180. That's quite expensive symbolic thing, I think, £180.
When you consider how the lengthy conversation about alcohol we had at one of the meetings before, yeah, it is. It is, yeah, I agree.
You know, I think I wasn't at that meeting, but it was a discussion about a few £100 on alcohol at civic mayor's investiture.
Yeah.
So I think, personally, I think if it's going to cost us money, I would be against it. I think if someone invites you to join them, then they don't ask you for money as well.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. When this was put to me a while ago, when somebody sort of like just floated it with me, and of course I don't speak for the council, so it's never going to be my decision, but it was mentioned that £180 corporate membership could, there could be a mutual benefit by Rotary displaying the town council logo and vice versa. And that also, it was mentioned that shop watch members may also be able to display the badge by association, and that staff could become associate members too by the corporate membership. I don't know if that's still the case, but it might be that we need a further conversation to clarify if that is still the case. Yeah, I'm not sure on this one now, because given that there is already a relationship, I also wonder if we should be paying money towards something that already kind of exists in terms of relationship.
Councillor tomorrow? Councillor
I mean, the council would obviously decide, but my opinion is where you have a relationship and you build a relationship with a long-standing organization, an historical organization, I see no wrong in becoming a corporate membership. Yes, you have a relationship with them, which means you do get involved with them, but you're not a corporate member of the organization. That's a vast difference. What they're proposing to us is to become a corporate member of the organization. Therefore, things like the relevant privilege that you might get from being a corporate member, for example, if you join the golf club, is different from you actually sponsoring the golf club. You would have your logo displayed at the golf club. You can do, there's so much perks that comes with being a member of an association or being, the word is corporate member. From also, I don't think there's anything wrong with supporting an organization that's been here for the last 80 years and counting with £180. If you want to count it as a support, I don't see any problem. I would definitely support that, but the council would decide.
Councillor Gurney?
This was mentioned to me at a previous event earlier this year, and it was said in a way of, oh, the council isn't a member of the Rotary Club, or it's not. And I was thinking, well, if the Rotary Club had the town council as an honorary member or associate member or corporate member, then they'd start displaying our logo on things that they promote, which then might give people the impression that whatever they do, we're supporting, which may be the case, but it might not be the case. There may be something they do where we're either not supporting it or we haven't funded it or put any support into it. And then it kind of, you've got maybe another organisation that is suggesting that Dunstable Town Council is supporting everything they do, which I'm not sure would be the case because they are a separate entity. I mean, if we were to do it to other organisations and say, look, you know, give us your emblems, give us your logos, it'd be a bit difficult for them to sort of say, you know, same sort of thing.
So they could represent something we don't want to be represented in, basically.
It could be, but you know.
Councillor Crawley?
The Rotary Club is great. I don't want to disparage anything about them. I just don't think it's something that we should necessarily get I don't think it's something we should join. I think that what they do is amazing in most of the circumstances. I just don't think it's something a town council should be dipping their fingers into. We should support some of their causes where needed, maybe. I don't know whether they're a charity in themselves or but maybe they can be the charity of the year if they're not already, but one of the mayor's charity. But I don't think if that would be, wouldn't that be a joint across kind of purposes then? What a conflict of interest if we were membership and one of the mayors, for example, wanted to have them as the charity of the year? Would that one of their mayoral charities? That would be a conflict if we were members, wouldn't it?
I think that'd be hard to argue.
Either way, I don't think that it's something we should join up to necessarily.
Thank you. Personally, I don't feel that we've got enough information to really make a decision. I don't feel we are aware of what the benefits are to becoming a corporate member. There's no list of membership benefits that we've been provided with. So I've got an idea based on what someone said to me from Rotary, but I don't actually know if that's correct or not because I haven't seen it written down. So personally, I don't think I would support it on that basis, that I think we should get a report of some sort that details exactly how we would be linked with them and when and where our logos might be shared and what exactly that gives us as a council. Does it give Shopwatch members associate membership as well? I mean, there's so many questions that we've not answered on. I'm not confident about this now.
Councillor Bater?
I was just going to say, can we not defer this until the next meeting? After get a full report and defer it till the next meeting and make a decision then.
Councillor Jones, I know you're not voting on this, but did you want to make any comment on this at all?
No.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Councillor Tomorrow.
Yeah, I was just going to make a last comment, really. I do agree. I think this should be postponed, you know, to, town collection, because I think, you know, we need to get a little bit more of a background information as to the benefit. I was just thinking just a second ago, for the Federation of Small Businesses, for example, you're a member, you display their logo on your business, you know, premises. That's all it is. So, and the benefit that comes with being a member of, you know, from the Federation, but doesn't mean you support everything that they do. No. It doesn't mean you sign, you know, every signature that they've signed. So, you know, you have to be able to support an organization without thinking their liability or your liability.
What we'll do then, I think we've got a feeling around the table at the moment. I'll have a second vote on this, but the first vote is actually to propose the adoption of a new brand. Starting on consider the town council to become a corporate member of the Rotary Club. It's going to be the first proposal cost £180. Depending on how that goes, I'll then propose that we actually defer it to the next meeting when we'll have more information. So those in favour of actually going ahead and joining at the cost of £180, those in favour? Those against? Is that against them?
Can I? We're deferring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do the whole thing in one go defer, yeah?
Yeah, so members just agree to.
Yes.
For the next week's difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Those in favour of deferring the decision until the next meeting? Chief Executive is going to go through the neighbourhood plan development working group, the verbal update.
So briefly, members may want to add to this who are involved in it. So firstly, to note that the full council agreed back in April to fund a piece of scoping work on what might the options be for having a neighbourhood development plan. That piece of work has been ongoing through the summer. A number of you were particularly part in the parking, getting people to fill in the form, asking their views on what a neighbourhood plan might be able to achieve. We had a session with the consultants last week in here with a number of members, where there was feedback from the summer consultation and also we talked through what the options might be. The purpose of that session was to review feedback from residents and also get a view from members of the impact of recent substantial developments and what views might be about future options for a plan in the town. The consultants have now gone away to compile feedback from that session with members, and we will then have a detailed report for full council on 2nd of December, which will bring all those things together. So that'll bring together what members said, members directed for that final report to consist of. The reason I'm telling you that now and put this on the agenda, even though it's full council that decided it, is simply because we had the meeting last week. And it's joint committee on Thursday. We wanted a chance to at least update members before joint committee in case members wanted to say anything about it at joint committee. It seemed fair to talk to members here first before anything was said about where we were at joint committee. I think having my reflection on the way the workshop went last week and the way the summer consultation went would be, I think they've been really good pieces of work. I don't really know where they're going. So we're not in a position to say to joint committee, the town council's got an opinion about this and we really want to do this and want your support immediately. I think we're in a position to say to joint committee, actually, we're thinking about it and we'll get back to you. So we're not in a position of going to joint committee later in the week saying, we're going here and we want your support and we want to say this. So whilst it's here as an update item for you, I don't think we need to spend much time on it this evening. Obviously happy to take questions. And I think certainly the working group have received the slides in the meeting. I hope your members have received the slides in the meeting recording was circulated earlier on. So happy to take questions. Members are able to ask the questions on what was said as I am, but it would be at full council where we receive the detailed report.
Okay, Councillor Crawley and Councillor Pollock.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to stick some urgency on this being completed because I'm concerned about something that I've kind of I've caught wind of, a potential discussion going on between Central Beds Council, Northampton Council, Milton Keynes Council about a combined authority, which would give further powers to that group of councillors on all sorts of bits and pieces. And I'm not sure whether if we have a neighbourhood plan in place, we can kind of knock some of them potential issues away before it actually happens. But definitely look into it. Combined authority plan that the 4 councils I think are looking at the moment as a South Midlands combined authority, which would be, it wouldn't, you know, they all have their own councils with their own little plans, but they would have more kind of group pressure on things like planning and road management and things like that, give them more influence on government and more influence on the area. So we might want to get this in to blocks and stuff quickly.
Councillor Holly.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it is a matter, I think, of cost against potential influence. It is going to take time to actually, if we do decide to have a neighbourhood plan, it's going to take a fair amount of officer time. At the end of the day, what we're looking at are those areas of the town where we may have some influence. If we do have specific views about certain areas, about developments that could take place, yes, a plan would perhaps give us that little bit more elbow room or influence, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily something that those above our status would necessarily agree with. So I come back to where I started, really, cost against potential influence, and what areas of town have we really where do we really sort of feel we need to have a say that could be within a neighbourhood plan as opposed to any other influence we might have in the planning process?
Councillor Brennan?
I apologise to the other members of the working group. I wasn't able to make it, so I was at a funeral. But I just wanted to say on Councillor Hollick's point that we need to be very wary, in my opinion, of anywhere around the town that is owned by Central Bedfordshire Council. And I think that is where the problem lies. It's political instability within Central Bedfordshire Council and the unpredictability of retention of land.
Councillor Tamara?
Thank you, Chair. I think to Councillor Hollick's point, I've discussed this, I've mentioned this before. The idea that we as a council, I think if we can do a neighbourhood plan, how much effects this neighbourhood plan would have against Central Bed, that actually is a unitary authority that makes a decision as to what planning comes along and what developers or what anybody decides to build. So considering the cost of doing this, which I would argue, the other thing that we have to consider carefully is what land are we trying to protect in Dunstable currently? Dunstable is landlocked. Okay, so yes, you do have some of Central Bed owned land, but they're far, possibly maybe 2 or 3 land that we're talking about. We're not talking about a vast, development that is coming to Dunstable. Depending on how much you're, going to be spending on this, maybe I can have a little bit more stronger opinion. But I just want to mention also, currently, I think there's a survey on the CBC website, basically asking for people. I think this is about local plan.
Yeah.
I think they're doing something in local
plan. They've got their own plan.
Right. So the question is, what we're trying to do, is it anywhere linked to what they're trying to do? Are you talking to them to feed the ideals and hopes and ideas of this council to synchronize with what they're trying to develop? If not, what you would have is you are going to be fighting against CBC as an authority. Okay, so I think if we're going to take this forward, we need to get on the table now. Is the right time to start talking to CBC about the fact that we're planning a neighborhood plan or a local plan specifically Dunstable, and now that would affect what they're trying to do. I do worry that we might end up in a lawsuit if you go too far, and then you would, argue, sentiment that we can have in this room, but it doesn't have any law behind it, So anyway, that's something I think you should think about carefully.
That was a fruitless exercise because it's just overridden by CBC.
Yeah, we will.
Have you been in contact with CBC in any way?
Yeah, we've had a meeting with directors at CBC about our thoughts and their thoughts on how the 2 plans might work together. I think the challenge is early days for their plan and early days for us. In an ideal world, we would develop a neighbourhood plan which would add some detail and dovetail with what they were developing with their plan, and we'd be able to invest in detailed work on Dunstable. They're not able to. Obviously, CBC's challenge is that lots of towns and parishes have neighbourhood plans at very different stages, and they have to go through one process. So there are challenges from around that. And CBC obviously have 2 very distinct roles in any neighbourhood plan we did work. One is their role as a planner, and one is their role as landlord in the town. And you have different relationships with them on those two subjects. And it may well be that as planners they have one view, but the landlord they have a different view. But those things, so we're certainly having those discussions, we've had some of those discussions, which have been mixed. And but it's early days, so part of the next stage will be what would the scope be, how could that fit in with where CBC are, and what do we think the actual potential and validity of a plan might be in the context of their plan.
Councillor Brennan, or do you done a bit?
Yeah, you asked if anyone had contacted CBC about it. I actually have, and there's a specific officer that deals with neighbourhood plans, and they're very eager to meet with the working group, which I told them at the time. But I was just putting my hand up to say, yeah, it is.
Oh,
Look at me.
Councillor Gurney?
I thought when we discussed this originally that we were going to have this feasibility study, which this consultant is doing. And then once we got the results from that, we could then discuss finance and how it would be financed. And I think at last week's meeting, you mentioned that there may be a possibility of getting some sort of grant pay for it. So I think before we start talking about cost, we really need to get the full report, discuss that, see what other options there are, all this, then discuss, and if we decide on doing something, then look at the cost and see if that's going to stop us from doing it. So I think we're quite a way away from doing the neighbourhood plan. We also need to bear in mind that, as we know as Central Beds councillors, the local plan isn't going to be done until 2028. So we're 4 years away from that. So we need something that's going to be compatible to that, that can be implemented in it, and therefore it can work.
Councillor Tamara?
So my suggestion then, Chair, is that we need to work with CBC rather than spending a separate fund to develop any neighborhood plan. The idea seems good, but what if in this room you've got, I don't know what the ideas are. If we're saying we have an idea of what the map of this town looks like, why not fit that directly? And some of the objective of this council, for example, there was issue of, the proposal that CBC in terms of the library, the old library. Some of the elements of it we were happy with, some of it we were not happy with it. Fit that as a report. Okay, and if we're talking about the old fire station, what are we trying to achieve? What do we want this town to look like? Let's talk to them directly rather than wasting so much time and so much money. I think we need to talk to CBC. Let's have this conversation directly. Let their officers do the work. I don't know, but that's just my opinion.
Anyone else other than we'd like to hear from you on the next stage? Move on to the next bit. Okay, we now move on to representatives on outside organisations. Receiving reports from the relevant people.
So
It's on the agenda. First thing.
Sorry.
Right, Citizens Advice Management Committee, in the absence of Councillor Atwell, Councillor Brennan is going to make the statement.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As I attended citizens advice meetings, as Central Bedfordshire Council representative, Councillor Atwell has requested in his absence that I update the order of meeting I have attended. Since the last Finance and General Purposes meeting, there have been 2 meetings of Citizens Advice Board, a regular meeting in August and September, which was the AGM, which was attended by the Town Mayor and Councillor Alderman. At the August meeting, the most worrying item was that there was a fire drill which took place at Dunstable Leisure Centre. Citizens Advice Bureau, which now, like the library, has long been relocated to Dunstable Leisure Centre, now named simply Dunstable Centre, by the previous Conservative administration, Central Bedfordshire Council, reducing the size of sports provision in the town, paving way to the Burnham Place development. Prior to the August meeting, there was a fire alarm test, basically at the centre. And at the time of the fire alarm test, there was a customer being consulted within citizens' advice. And when the staff and citizens' advice tried to use the fire exit with the customer, they found that bolts had been fitted to the fire exit from the outside and that the fire exit was rendered unusable. Thank God this has only been a fire drill and not a real fire. I've progressed this issue with Central Bedfordshire Council, who sent me a very detailed reply explaining the situation, how the bolts were fitted in error as a safety measure, as the same door was left, when left open, was allowing unintended access to the roof. They also stated that the experience did highlight issues regarding the fire evacuation process for the centre and for Citizens Advice Bureau. They also stated that Everyone Active's function is to manage the whole building, but the Citizens Advice Bureau is required to maintain and adhere to their own fire policy within the area that they control, and for this policy to feed into Everyone Active, who are there to support them. And that officers were content that while Everyone Active was in error in regard to the fire doors, the subsequent actions have been entirely correct and appropriate in regard to the incident and its mitigation, and will monitor any subsequent changes recommended by the fire assessor and agreed Citizens Advice Bureau. It was explained on a separate note that funding for social prescribing is falling. The Chiltern Hills PCN have reduced the Citizens Advice social prescribing funding by approximately £21,000 due to increased rents for the doctor's surgery in the health hub and the hiring of 2 wellbeing coaches. They also explained that they have had an uplift of clients after Central Bedfordshire Council have decided to close Watling House, expressing that for many in the area, CVC is too remote, and clients express the view that they have no access to Central Bedfordshire Council services. Citizens Advice explained that they are currently at their busiest and that they have to prioritise emergency issues such as homelessness, and this has a knock-on effect of having an ever-increasing callback list. They expressed the need for a housing team to be present in the local area and that the CBC housing hubs that are sometimes in the library are insufficient to meet the needs of the town. That's it.
Got a question from the mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that very detailed report, Councillor Brennan. It is quite alarming, pardon the pun, it is quite alarming that the fire exit door was bolted shut. I guess my question is, I didn't understand why the Conservative administration was mentioned during that, because that building's been open for quite a while, and I would have thought the fire warden, at a minimum, would have to check that the building is suitable for evacuation, and that Everyone Active should be also, well, it should be Everyone Active, but I didn't understand how it's been occupied for so long, and yet that's only just been blanked out.
Something from the outside, you wouldn't think. That's really the issue.
The fire, the bolts were fitted while the manager was on holiday.
Current manager.
Yes.
Councillor Jones?
I'm not sure this conversation's for our town council meeting. I think all of the issues are, they're obviously very pertinent and worrying, but they are CBC matters and issues for CBC to address with Everyone Active as their contracted provider. But I absolutely, they are very, very worrying. As a health and safety expert, they are extremely worrying, but you'd have thought the fire risk assessment and the annual checks, the 6 monthly checks, the monthly checks, even the weekly checks of such a building would have highlighted and flagged that up. But I think that whole report is very informative, but it's a CBC matter.
So on that,
you mentioned the finances are dwindling as well. So are they seeking any funding elsewhere yet? Or?
I at the time, I believe I directed John Kane who is the Vice Chair of Citizens Advice Bureau, former Dunstable Town Councillor, to contact Nikki Phelan, who is a high-ranking member of the ICB, and contact within the ICB. On the latest point,
Not sure how much SLA is.
so just on this point that it's a CBC report, it was, I read this report last night on the specifications that were given to me by Councillor Atwell. These were the points that he wanted me to address.
Okay, thank you. Bring those to my attention. Next, Dunstable International Town Twinning Association, Town Mayor and Councillor Pollock and Kensington Gurney, who's speaking on.
Perhaps I can do this, Chairman, then. The town mayor is, of course, the honorary president, but I don't know whether or not Mr. Donald Stevens, who's the chairman, has been informed of that fact. Anyway, there's been no recent meeting, but three of us did turn up to a date that when there was to be a meeting, but I think the chairman must have forgotten, so we didn't actually have a meeting. I'll just say that, and it's in a way reiterating what I said last time, bearing in mind that town twinning is effectively a relationship the town council establishes with a foreign town. The Dunstable International Twinning Association is sort of a body that's sort of behind that and can deal with some of the nitty-gritty in terms of encouraging people to join, encouraging schools to and businesses maybe to exchange visits and so on. But it would be an idea, I think, if given that the town is the initiative, had the initiative to do this, that some of the members of the town council are actually members of DETA as well. I think that would help to perhaps encourage maybe others to join. And if there's any influence that any members have to suggest any people that might be relevant to join, then we'd be very pleased to hear.
Thank you, Chair. Peter, I have a question. How do I know about when the meetings are scheduled for? Because I'd really like to join if possible.
Well, it's as long as Mr. Stevens has been told that you are the current mayor, then he should let you know of any meetings.
Who would be responsible for letting that individual know that the mayor is currently myself?
Me,
Yes.
and I thought I had, but I'm not infallible.
No, when we
I haven't.
at the annual meeting, when we set all the members for various outside bodies, that's the time that I assume that all the outside bodies would be informed as to who the member representing the town is.
We have contacted them to the best of our knowledge of who they are. We might need to check that things haven't changed, but we just haven't got in. We'll check that.
There's nothing on the cards at the moment, Madam Mayor.
I just want to reiterate, you talked to me about this before I became the current mayor, and I was very keen to be involved.
Mhm.
And I know that Councillor Alderman was also keen to get involved.
Indeed.
So any help that you'd like from us, and I'm sure there are other members that would be interested, then yeah, please let us know. Happy to support.
I will prompt the chairman to set a meeting.
Please.
Thank you.
Okay, Hospice and Home Management Committee, Councillor Bater.
Yes, I went to my first meeting back in July, which was the AGM. And unfortunately for Liz, she was selected as chairman in name only. But she has been doing lots of work since then on reorganising things and arranging fun days. That's basically it. I have the next meeting next week, so there'll be another report in next
Session.
Yeah.
Okay, Ashton Arms Houses Charity, Councillors Reardon and Alderman.
Thank you. Chair, I actually have nothing to report since the last meeting. We have not actually met, so there is nothing further to update you with. Thank you.
Ashton Schools Foundation, councillors Hollick and Alderman.
There's nothing since the last report that I gave to the Finance and General Purposes Committee to the effect that the schools were still spending some of the money that came from the sale of Ashton Middle School. And they are still very much appreciative of what we've been able to do for them. There has been considerable work over the past 3 or 4 years. There is a meeting nonetheless on Wednesday, the 6th of November, so I'll be able to report to the next F&GP.
Okay. Choose Foundation, councillors Brennan.
And nothing to report.
Paul's Land Charity, councillor Gunny and Jones.
Nothing to report as that only meets twice a year.
Okay. Lockington Charity and Marsh Charity, councillor Jones.
Our next meeting is in November. We've been carrying out some inspections of some of the properties. There's a couple of properties within the block on Church Street that are being looked at under health and safety. Some of the residents are collecting rather a lot of items and storing them within their properties. So we're dealing that sensitively to try and alleviate any potential health and safety and fire hazards. But overall, properties are doing well. There's one being refurbished and will be let out as soon as it's ready. And we have a number of potential occupants.
Good news, it's getting in there, but hoarding can be a problem at times, can't it? Okay, that's in my loft. Right, Dunstable District Scout Council Executive, that's me. So we had the AGM in June, which was attended by the Mayor of Dunstable and the Mayor of Hampton Regis. The key item was that Roger Petworth stepped down, and a new chair, Philip Spicer, was elected in this place. And I was also elected to the committee. I come up with ideas, but there we go. Right, next bit is going into the private session. 14 recommended in terms of Schedule 12A, Local Government Act 1972. The following items will be likely to disclose incidental information relating to establishment and contractual matters, and it is therefore recommended that pursuant to the provisions of public budget administration's meetings, Act 1960, the public sector be excluded from those